Hello there, great person, and welcome to this a bit unusual entry into the channel. So, today I do think I want to talk a bit about the book I've been writing for the past almost year, like I've been writing for the past 8 months or so. I started, I do think, 2 days after the Attack on Titan finale reaction was recorded. And as I said in that reaction, I did get inspired to finally write down the story I wanted to always write. And I want to talk about the story today to you, to tease it a bit, to answer some questions, both about the story and about my writing process, because some people have said that might be interesting. So if you're interested in my writing process that has been developed now over the past 15 years or so, with several minor projects done and in the bag. And I just want to talk a bit about all those things. So if you're interested in what I will deliver to you probably within the next 3 or 4 months as at least something to beta read, and after that something I will publish, probably in self-publishing, because I do not really fit the profile of people who get published in traditional publishing today. Nowadays, so I will not bother, I think. And yeah, so you will get this book probably, like, definitely in this year. I don't know when. I did write it in German, and I will translate it into English with the help of a professional translator, obviously. I will prepare the beta read with AI, so you can skim through it a bit, but that won't be the final version, because obviously I want to support the real translators, and AI isn't good enough yet. But just to give it a bit broader reach, you know, so everyone can understand what it's about. And I do think what is important to me are the ideas in those beta reads, and not exactly every single word, because I will also get line editing done by professionals as well. So that is something I will work on anyway. So let's dive into the book. Book's title will be The Dream Afterlife, Circle of Radiance, currently the working subtitle, and I do not think I will change it. And it is a fantasy book, first part of a story that will probably span more than 4 books. I did plan out a lot of key points of the whole story, so the ending is already planned. And I will just see how quick we get there. But I will definitely be writing this till its end, because I do think that is the story I want to tell in my life. Like, I've been writing many stories, short stories. I've tried 2 novels when I was 14. They were, for that age, okay, but like they were pretty bad from the standards I have nowadays. Yeah, this is the story I always wanted to write. This is the story that I've honed my skills for all these years. I think I didn't really know I did hone them for this story, but now I know. And I do my best to give you good experience in reading, in prose, in characters, and everything. And something I do want to say, though, is that you have probably seen my reaction videos to various shows and stuff, and I'm sometimes a party pooper. I heavily criticize stories sometimes when I think things could have been written better. That does not mean that I'm the best writer. Like, I try my best, but I've seen instances of people giving writing advice and criticizing written stuff, and everyone was like, well, you probably know how to write very well yourself. And I do think I know how to write pretty well, but just because I see faults in other stories does not mean I don't I see the faults in mine. So I do hope the beta readers will pick up on some, and I do still think it's a pretty good book, and I enjoy editing it currently a lot. And I did find more positive, cool things in the manuscript than I thought were there already. Like, I really. Like, you know, when I started editing, I was like, yeah, I didn't remember if this was actually that good. But now that I'm editing, I really enjoy reading it, and really enjoy also the things that are in there that on the second read will really be like eye-opening, I do think, to you. And also will be after several other of the entries in the series will be very eye-opening when you read this book. But yeah, so I will do it like a Q&A now. And if you like this, don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. But we will now do a little Q&A. So I've let a very, very versatile entity generate questions that I thought were cool. I filtered them a bit. So I will answer some general questions about the book. I will then answer some questions about the story and the characters, about the world building, about writing process, and about the series and its future. So if any of those are interesting to you, or if you just want to watch one of those, I will give you timestamps for those topics. And we will just see what I answer to these questions. I haven't really thought of them, so we will just wing them a bit, and I do hope you enjoy. And also, of course, always give me your opinions on perhaps my answers or also on your own writing experiences. I really love talking about writing, but I mean, I don't have a writing channel, so this is like more a minor thing, and I won't make it a big thing. I probably won't do many of these videos, if at all. I just want to talk about this book really badly currently, because like I've been sitting in my little room for 8 months now, not talking about anyone about this book. So here we go, starting with some general questions now about this book, and I do hope you enjoy, and I do hope you will be intrigued about the premise and characters and storyline and all of it. So here we go.
Doch ich frag mich, wer wir sind.
So first, the question, what inspired me to even write this book? So this book, which is in the genre of fantasy, and I do think I would consider it slice of life and horror as well as key ideas in it, and I will tell you later probably why. But what inspired me to write this book were, I do think, two things. One of the things is, and both of them are addressed in the thanks in the beginning. I don't know how you call like these little thank you blurbs and like the dedicated part. So the first one was actually the ending of Attack on Titan, in that I did really like that story. I do still think it's my favorite story I've read or been presented. And I really, really liked that throughout the whole story, I felt that everything was quite planned out. Save for some very, very minor things, but I mean, that's how it is. But I really was so in awe that there was this big story spanning several seasons. I mean, it's in TV format, like 139 chapters or something, that was so well thought out and so rewarding to watch, to rewatch, to go through all the episodes, and every episode had some meaning and was a piece of the greater puzzle. I absolutely loved that. I loved the characters as well, which is what why I put it above Dark currently. So Dark is a German TV show. It also is planned from beginning to end, but I do think the characters in Dark are not all as high level as the Attack on Titan characters, which is why I do like Attack on Titan more currently. But it has this awesome, vast storyline with many, many deep underlying themes that are very important, very nuanced, in most parts, very complicated as well. And it explores very, very central questions to the idea of surface level prejudices, and also deeper prejudices, and war, and what it means, and what the relationship between war and potential peace is, and why it might be fragile. And I just love that. So that is one of the two things that did inspire me to write the book. And the other one is unfortunately something more unfortunate, which is an understatement, and it is that last year or this year, start of this year, first day of this year, my best friend died, because he did suffer from cancer for a long time, and he passed away now on New Year's Eve, and I didn't know he would pass when I watched the end of Attack on Titan, and I always wanted to talk to him about the ending because he had watched it before me, 3 months before me, and we always wanted to talk about the ending, and he died before we could. So I don't know, it is one of the things, like he enjoyed that story as well a lot, and I also knew I would need to work through that grief in the future. And I'm not a person that works through grief by talking to people. Like when there is an event like that, I'm the one most of the time people come to ask, and like to open up and be like, yeah, this is shit and stuff. But I never was that person. Like, I always worked through these things mostly on my own. And because that was probably the most horrid thing that I've experienced in my life, I needed to work through it. So I knew it would come, so one of the parts of the book is about that a bit. I do think it is a harrowing part as well. It is very emotional to me, and it was very emotional to me to write it. But it is also in part why I wanted to, or why this idea of where the book takes place was so interesting and fitting for that purpose, because the book will take place in the afterlife. So it is a bit like it is said in Frieren, like I imagined my afterlife to be a certain thing, and if you could ask me why, and I would say because it's convenient, and I love that line in Frieren, and it's I took a bit of inspiration from Frieren mood-wise as well. It's an anime as well, which I reacted to, but so because this played in the afterlife, it got even more personal. I always thought about the afterlife, what would be cool about it, how I would love it to be, and not because it would be perfect, but because it would be true and raw, and that's why I wrote about that. And because my friend did pass on, I also found some solace in the hope that he would be somewhere else, and that's what the other thing that inspired me to write this book down. So yeah, those are the two main reasons. And in the dedication in the beginning, I do thank those people, and you will read that. If you had to describe the tone of your fantasy world in 3 words, what would they be? Cozy, adventurous, horror. If I had to describe the book in one sentence, it would be journey to self-discovery. I do think that is what it's all about. You might now think that's a cop-out a bit, but that is literally what I write in the first intro paragraph, which is like, so there's like 10 lines of introduction into the idea of the book, which is talking about the dream, which is where the book takes place, the dream afterlife. I mean, that's the title. So the dream is the setting where it takes place, and the first blurb talks about that, and it also talks about that. That's the most important question of the dream: who are you truly? And that is what the book deals about. So I would say it's journeys of self-discovery, because that's what I want my characters to have, all of them, each and every one. So that's my answer to that. What makes this book stand out from others in its genre? I am extremely unsure about that. Because I don't know what genre it really fits into. It's a weird thing. I would probably say, I would have several answers. Like, if you would say my book is fantasy, it is not traditional fantasy in that there are knights and they have their little kingdom and defend it against other knights, or that there's this magic guild that learns magic through spells and you know these ideas. They are still there in a way, but they're a lot different, I would also say. I would say in general the book is, there is a lot of familiarity in the ideas, but they're all completely different than or not completely perhaps, but a bit different from what you know them to be. So you will feel a lot of familiar ideas and perhaps settings even I would be a bit hesitant about that, but you will I do think you will read it and be like, yeah, I kind of, this is kind of familiar, but I've never seen it like this, I think. But perhaps I'm self-aggrandizing or whatever you say too much here, but that's what I do think and hope. Also, I would say the idea of the book is that it is in a way an isekai, which just means reborn in another world, or what I do think, something along those lines. I know that it's not exactly what it means, but I do think it's just meaning other world. But so if you're an isekai fan, it is like that, but also completely different than isekai. So I will illustrate what I mean. So normally in isekai, what I know to be true is that someone dies or is whisked away into this other world where they are the person who retains their memories to carry them over and use them in clever or empathic ways to make something better or to do something good. And everyone else doesn't know that they are from another world in most cases. And all the other people in that world, though, are like living in a normal world, and you just like dimension hop, so to speak. That's not the case here. It will be an isekai, of course, because the afterlife is another world in this case. But there are several differences. So first of all, everyone who goes into this afterlife that I've created, the dream, as I call it, will not retain their memories, their explicit memories. So you will wake up and you won't know what happened before in your life. Everyone does not know what happened in their lives. They are just waking up somewhere and they are thrown into the dream, and depending on where they are thrown into the dream, it might be very dangerous, it might be very, very good. There might be structures in place already to get them accustomed to the dream. There might not be. So it is more about exploring this new world from a brand new perspective. And everyone in this dream obviously doesn't remember anything. So everyone's in the same state in some way, because all of them arrive without them explicit memories. All of them try to figure out what it is about this new world, how it works, and all of that. So that means also that the main characters are in that way not special. Like, they're like everybody else. They're waking up, they've lived another life, they don't remember any explicit details, and they have to figure out who they are through their actions in this dream. And there are some people who do remember some stuff. For example, if you see a certain tree and you've seen that in your life, you will remember its name, for example. And those are things that people treasure in the dream because it brings a bit more clarity into the dream. And it is something special. And if very big ideas are carried over from the previous life, that's something special in the dream. So there can be really big events when something very big is brought over. In the book, I call it remembering stuff. So I remember X. Like, I would like if there is a bunny and you see it and you're like, oh, that's a bunny. Like, the bunny was remembered, and everyone will also remember the bunny if they have seen it in the previous life. But special people who can call these ideas forth, you know. And it's in like everyday animals or something, it's easier. But there are like higher order concepts that are not accessible at the beginning of a realm in the dream. So there are several realms, and people are like, they are isolated from each other at first, and because they now I won't tell you why they are isolated and why there are different ones, but you have to find out. So that's how I would say it's different. Like, no one remembers their previous lives, even though everyone knows their isekai. Like, everyone, so to speak, knows their isekai. No one knows what they were before. So they have to figure out, work through it, and find their place in this new world. And they also don't know if they will live forever in this new world and stuff like that. So these ideas are there as well. So I do think that's my very extensive answer to that question. What kind of reader would enjoy this book the most? I do think someone who likes a very interwoven story with many characters that have very visceral experiences. And I do try, and I do think my style has become that through my horror stories a bit. And there is some good horror in the book as well, because in this dream there are also nightmares. I mean, I thought that would be somehow like that just grew from the idea of this dream. If you've got a dream, there are nightmares or nightmarish landscapes and nightmarish ideas and corruption, and something like that is there. So there are some really, really visceral, dark things in the book, and there are also some very wholesome, I think, cozy things. So it is. I tried. I don't know if I managed it. You have to tell me if you read it. I did try to emulate the dreamlike feeling as well. Like if you dream, sometimes things are a bit fragmented. Like it doesn't mean that the story is fragmented that I tell, but the impressions you get, like I shift around moods a bit. Like there's a very cozy thing, there's a very horror thing, there's a very cozy thing, there is a very adventurous thing, there is a very everyday thing. It's like that. Like it also has. I try to have this dreamlike quality in the chapter structure as well, and in the events that happen in the book. So we will see if that paid out. That's at least my intention, and I would love to know what you think. So you will probably enjoy it if you like different ideas explored on a quite emotional level, I would say, a visceral level. At least that's what I tried. What was the first scene or idea that sparked the entire book? I have had the idea of this book and this series in my head since I was like 10 or 12. And I do think what really sparked the idea was I watched a movie called, I do think it is called Riverworld. It is also playing in the afterlife, taking place there, but everyone retains their memories. Everyone retains their memories, and there's nothing like magic. And in my book, there will be something like magic, though it's called different. And I will probably talk about the magic system later. So that is the first idea that sparked this book. I wanted to do something with that idea, but I didn't want anyone to remember their previous lives and make it something special to remember something, because then it means it was important to you in your previous lives. I like that idea, and I also wanted to have it be. There should be some magical about it, because in the way this dream is constructed that I write about, it is this mainly constructed from our ideas in big parts, and our ideas are emotional, and emotions are to me a bit magical, and these emotions can reshape the dream in certain things, and the ideas that people have can shape the dream as well. So the magic system is about ideas, I would say. There are very rigid rules I do have in my mind, but I will probably talk about them in a later question. And yeah. If you could step into the world of your book for a day, where would you go first? I would go to a little settlement called Dor, which is a very, very small settlement led by very normal, everyday people who just enjoy everyday life and working, and they find beauty in the smallest things, and they are a very, very healthy, good society that celebrates a lot, that in the evening comes together, talks about stuff, and they support each other in everything they can, and they are very dear to each other, all of them. And it's a very, very like the level of technology is almost Stone Age. But it is a very cozy place. It is probably the most pleasant place I've ever thought about. Not landscape-wise. There are in the stream I write about. There are places where the landscape is a lot more beautiful than in this little settlement where they are just living next to fields in the forest. And it's not even a medieval setting. Like, it's a lot less developed, but there is this idea of togetherness and community, and a very positive, healthy one at that. And I would love to go there. What was the biggest challenge in writing the first book of a fantasy series? realizing that it wasn't the first book. I did plan out the main characters. I did plan, like I had them in mind. I knew what they wanted to do and stuff. And then I realized I didn't have the backstory, actually. So I do have many scenes from book 2 in my head, and I had them first. And I realized I didn't know where the characters came from. And I didn't want to do flashbacks because the characters had so much layers, at least in my head. Like, I don't know if they have layers. Like, you might read them and be like, yeah, no, they didn't have layers. But in my mind, they had a lot more layers than a little flashback chapter or something would have done justice. So I did not do that. I realized I had to write something before that, and I just wanted to write the first part of the second book as something like that. And then I realized, no, this is too much and it's too complex. And basically, book 1 is the prologue, the same way as the first arc of Tower of God is the prologue of Tower of God, or that the first arc of Attack on Titan is that like these first arcs, where you get to know the characters and you get them to the point where they also have flaws and things they really want. Like in the beginning of this book, of my book, they want stuff, obviously, and they develop and go through the dream with their ideas, and they are challenged and stuff. But in the end, their motives are even stronger, a lot stronger. And I do think without writing this book, you wouldn't understand how strong these motives are, and why they act this strongly and with this much conviction about several things. So I did write this book. But I had to realize that I had to write another book, and I love these scenes in book 2 because they're very cool. Like, one is in an arena where there's a test to become a high-ranking position of the let's say military structure of one of the dreams realms, and very cool scenes, I think, and I love the characters that are in it. But like, one of the characters is not even in this book yet. The main interesting character in that scene, and I just knew I had to write more, and I had to build them up and get to know them more as well. What are their backstories? I'm not a fan of prequels. I'm not a fan of writing a prequel after a lot of stuff is already done, because I don't know, if you shove it in, so to speak, later, it wasn't important enough to put it in book 1 in some way, and so why do you write it? I don't know. I enjoy them often, but I don't know. There's just this thing that I don't like to. I don't like to write that on my own, prequel books. So I wanted to make it start where everyone really starts. So yeah, so that was the hardest part, realizing it wasn't. Like, the book I wanted to write was, like, not the one that was needed. Did any part of the story surprise you as you were writing it? Yes. Yes. It was a part... There is a character I created, so I had the outline. I knew the character and the character's fate in the book. And the moment I wrote that character, I was like, I can't do that. And I wrote the character, fell in love with that character so much. And when my friend died, the character also changed in those chapters. And it was planned, like, the character was planned to change, but nowhere near as heavily as this. And the background of that character became a lot more complex and layered through that. And I was so surprised about that character. I do think it's my favorite character in that book. And I didn't think, like, it was just 2 notes in my draft, that character. Like, I had that problem a lot. I actually know, like, now that I think about it, that is a problem I have a lot. When I create a side character, I fall in love with them. And even if I plan on them having certain fates, and it might be leaving the dream again, let's say it like that. It might be for some, or it might be that they just go their own ways or something. It's just that they get out of the story for some reason, or they settle down. And I knew what they were gonna do of those things. And if I knew there was a character who wouldn't belong in the story, I always start thinking, what if they appear in a later book? What if they appear in a later book? What could they do? How could they develop? Because the thing about this book is all the characters have incredible potential for development, at least in their magic. Because everyone does have magic. They just perhaps don't really... Anyway, I will not spoil too much. But yeah, there were several characters now but this one I was talking about just now, that one was the important one. That was the one where I was really surprised how well that turned out, I think. You will have to tell me. And if you've read the book, you can tell me which character you think I'm talking about. I will tell you. We will probably do a live stream a week after release or so if like more than 5 people read the book. And you can tell me who you think it was. That would be fun, I think. So, were there any fantasy books, myths, or historical periods that influenced your world building? All of them, I would say, on a meta level in a way. There are the themes that are always talked about in this book. For example, belief, what is right, what should you live for? These ideas, and because people carry over stuff, myths and stuff will also at least subconsciously be carried over into the dream. So some of the shapes in the dream will be influenced by that. And but what fantasy books did perhaps influence my world building? I don't know. The world building, not per se, but I liked Wheel of Times. I like Wheel of Times feeling. I tried to emulate a bit of that in that I wanted this group of people that adventure in book 1. I wanted that a bit as well, like just go with people into a new world. So yeah, perhaps Lord of the Rings as well, because there are some parts. I do think Lord of the Rings did influence me in the way that there are myths in that world that I have not revealed yet in the book a lot. And I love Tolkien's idea of building a backstory first. I didn't do that, but I do have a backstory that developed during writing for a lot of stuff. And I really enjoyed that. So I do think this idea of lingering, like things from before that we just see very briefly sometimes. Like in Lord of the Rings, you see the statue of someone, and the people know more than the people in my book know. But I do think that's a cool thing. So I do think that also influenced me a bit. What's one scene that was particularly fun or difficult to write? Can't tell you that. But I can tell you there were scenes I had so much fun writing. And there was one scene that took 2 weeks to write because it was something very... Like, I was so depressed every time I wrote that scene. I was so fucking depressed. So, I mean, yeah. And it was like 4 weeks ago. I really struggled through those chapters, not because, like, I do think they turned out really well. And they have not even been edited. I do think they're already well. So, but it was very hard. Very hard. And I choked up a bit several times. And I mean, I don't know. That happens more easily to me, I think, than to others. But, it's, yeah. If readers could take one lesson or emotion from this book, what would you want it to be? Try to be true to yourself. And try to figure out what that means. That's that. And emotion, I would like, that's the lesson. And I would say there are more, obviously, but I think that's something dear to me. And also emotion. I would like to take someone. I would like someone to take more than one emotion, like just to feel these characters and what they are. What challenges do the main characters face and how do they grow throughout the story? I will not tell you how they grow throughout the story because that would defeat the purpose of reading the book. But the challenges the characters face are are their ideas of what to do in the dream, I would say. And that's their inner challenge. And their outer challenges are, for one character, it is the nightmares in the dream and saving a friend from those nightmares and protecting them even through the most terrible circumstances. For another character, it is like it is to figure out whether keeping a promise is more worth than pursuing your own dream. And the last character's challenge is, if people tell you you are chosen, should you rise up to that? And what dangers lie in if you say yes, I will rise up to it. That's the main challenges the three main characters will face, that I can tell you about. There are more than those main characters, I would say, but that's the ones that we start with. So, did you intentionally plant any foreshadowing or hidden clues for readers to discover? Oh yes, a lot. But some for this book, some for the next ones. There is nothing in this book, I think, that obviously I tried to have everything make sense for me. And if something doesn't make sense for you in this book, that will be a foreshadowing, probably. Or I effed up royally and didn't notice. So you never will know until you read all the books someday, I don't know. Were there any subplots or ideas you had to cut from the book that you had wished you could have kept? Not cut, but there was an idea I had that I didn't put in because it would have bloated stuff. It didn't, it was a repeat of another thing from another part of another storyline I felt a bit. And it might also come up something like that in book 2. So I scrapped it and it was in, but the stuff I wrote before was a lot more detailed than I thought it would be and a lot more fleshed out, and it took more space. And I wanted to have these 3 storylines that we follow be about the same length. And so I did not write that thing in. Yeah. What emotions do you hope readers will feel while reading certain key scenes? Wholesomeness, coziness, dread, fear, awe. Love, perhaps, not the feeling of love, but you know what I mean, like this list very and homeliness or whatever, like the feeling of home. Those. What's one moment in the book that felt particularly personal to me? When my best friend died, I did write the dialogue from the book where I basically am just writing what I think. That's very personal to me. It's I think it's 2 paragraphs or something. I wrote exactly what I thought to what I because I didn't get the chance to talk to him before he died. And because I moved away half the country and he was very sick, obviously, and I just heard from other people how his last days were. And I imagine what I would have told him and what he would have told me, because he did accept it in the end, and I did not. So that was very personal. I do think I will not really change those words as well, even if you might find them stupid. And that was very emotional, and I wrote them down. So you will feel all of these things are my thoughts. I consider every single character I wrote in this book part of me, a facet of mine that I explore. So I am, so to speak, in every character in a way. And but that was a scene that felt very powerful to me because of that. Because I really, it's probably the most truthful thing I've ever written in that scene. So I don't know. What makes the world of your novel unique compared to other fantasy stories? First of all, the world is shaped by ideas, and the magic system is called lucidity, so to speak. There are people in the world that are lucid, I mean, it's from lucid dreaming. It's where I took it from, obviously. And the more lucid you are, the more you can shape the dream around you. And there are affinities you have for certain ideas when you enter the dream. And the most important affinity that most people find in the beginning of the story is light. So the idea of enlightenment in a way as well. So that is one of the most highly revered ideas in both of the realms we visit in this book, actually. And they both have it because they're both in different places, because one is like halfway overrun by nightmares, so their faith is something that keeps them lit and helps them defend against the darkness, and their lucidity. The people who use the lucidity will use a lot of light and fire and stuff like that to burn down the nightmares and to defend against them. And in the other one, light is something that is highly revered, because that is just what most people know. And something that is unique, perhaps, I don't know if this is too much a spoiler, but the magic system has extremely clear rules to me. There is leeway, of course, because we're talking about ideas, but there are several mechanics I have in place that I know how they work. Like, I wrote about a page about the magic, and in the book, people think they know the magic, but just because they think they know the magic doesn't always mean they know the magic, because they also learned it from experience and stuff, and they might have misconcluded stuff, or might have not had a refined understanding, or something led them to believe stuff, So the magic system is, I do think, in that part, something you don't always see. Like, it's not a clear-cut magic system. What also makes it unique, I would say, is like these Isekai aspects that I talked about. And the thing is, and I think I talked about that before on the Discord a bit, but I wanted to write a story where the laws of reality are not superior to the laws of emotion and mind. So in this world, there is obviously structure, and my thought was always like the general working of the world has been brought over by the people who created the dream through their being there, so to speak, without giving too much away about all of it. And obviously they know from, for example, our world, they know like something falls down and like physics laws and stuff, like the experiences we have, but only the experiences are carried over, not the formula we have or the words necessarily, and that's why the world's pretty stable. But if there is a lucid person, so someone who uses lucidity, these natural laws of the dreams, they don't work anymore really. So if you're lucid, these emotional and your ideas will shape the world more than the rules of the world are. I don't know if that makes sense, but I thought that was a cool idea, because in our world it's like affects this tongue-in-cheek saying, I would say it's tongue-in-cheek, but facts don't care about your feelings, and in this world it's more like feelings don't care about your facts. In the end. So I thought that also was a fun idea. And what's also unique is it's not your typical young boy or girl is chosen to be a heroine and will slay the evil overlord. I wouldn't even say there are antagonists, but all of them also, I hope, do have good in them in a way, and some more than others, and some perhaps even not. But I wanted to make real people that just live in this dream and see what they go towards with different aims and different beings and personalities and stuff. So, yeah. I don't know how unique that is, though. Like many good writers do stuff like that, I feel. So, but I mean, that's still something I try to do. What inspired the magic systems, creatures, and lore in your book? All my readings in psychology and physics. I don't know if you know this channel, but I do have a PhD in quantum physics education. So I did a lot of reading and literature on psychology. I love psychology of dreams. I love analyzing stories. So all my previous knowledge about psychology, storytelling, and like natural sciences and how these things interconnect and belief, they're all in here, and that's what inspired me. Like, it's nothing special especially, but like all of that inspired it. How do you approach writing dialogue and interaction between characters in a fantasy setting? I just write them as people that talk and have their own needs and wants and interact with people because of that and because of their personalities. I don't know. I know that's a very stupid answer and that it's very shallow. I think every dialogue should somehow carry some meaning or some information or something that progresses the story or the reader's ideas about the world or the characters, or that elicits a certain feeling. Like, sometimes there are quite some everyday life dialogues, perhaps, that you would be like, why is that there? But I try to create, for example, an atmosphere of coziness, and it's just people admiring what they did that day or something like that. So, that's like, perhaps that also fits the other stuff, but so yeah, so I don't know. So and because most of the people learn a lot in this book about where they are and stuff. I try to hold true to the characters' ideas, to their personalities, and also to the realms they're in. Like this dream we're talking about, where the book takes place, will have several realms, at least 2 in book 1, and so these two realms, they are connected through an event that happens in the book. And because they are connected, in the future there will be a conflict, of course, as well, potentially between these 2 realms. Most do, in fact, this one realm I write the dialogues differently than the other, because the one realm is really bad and terrible and horrid in many parts, and the other is very cozy and very, very like they're a bit. They're not the same core idea, so to speak, about them. What makes them be or important or special? I don't know if that's a bit too fuzzy, but and so that helps me as well, and the setting as well. So yeah. What was the biggest challenge you faced while writing this book? Finding the time to write the book, because I do have a job, a family, 2 twins, and a YouTube channel. So finding the time was pretty challenging, but also I do think it did me a lot of good, because I had a lot of time to think about the chapters and the future of the characters a lot, and I could let things settle in after each chapter most of the time, or after 3 or 4 chapters. That was actually pretty cool, but it was also a challenge, because sometimes I didn't want to write again, and I was exhausted, and I had to force myself to write again, to start writing, and not to write because I love writing, but to start, to get the first paragraph out when I sat down, and that was a challenge, yeah. Did the story change a lot from your first draft to the final version? Yes, in that the details appeared. So my first draft was very broad strokes, and some of the details really did change. There was a kitchen scene, for example, that turned into a scene near a little crystal lake, and you will know what I'm talking about when you read the book. But all in all, it was just more the details grew, and it so like there were many seeds, and they wove into this hedge or whatever you say, and it's like, so it was the details that really, really grew and appeared. So I really liked that. How can readers connect with you and share their thoughts on the book? Well, you can join the Discord. There is a channel called #DAL. Just write about the book, what you thought in there once you've seen it. Or if you see this video, you can also discuss first ideas there, obviously. And I'm always open for questions, so post them here in the comments, push the algorithm a bit, and yeah, I don't know, like that's how you can connect with me. So I mean, or post post something under older videos of mine, because those are the ones I see more, because the newer videos, like I get a lot of comments. Fortunately, shout outs to all the cool people who comment on my videos, but I sometimes don't see special questions there. So that's actually a life hack to get into contact to me quicker. Like comment under a video that's older, like I don't know, Attack on Titan videos, for example. You know, yeah. How do you develop your characters? Do you plan them out in detail before, or do they evolve as you write? I would have said earlier I did plan them out before, like when I would have been asked when I started the book, but no. I have a rough idea about the characters, but the details develop with them interacting with the world and situations. And actually, one of the main character goals for the whole series I did not have before writing the last 4 chapters of that character's storyline in this book. Even though I know where the character ends and what he will do, or she, and you know, that was very interesting. So I had the character traits, and they were stable and they were the same, but the specific goals and the situations that drove that characters, or will drive the characters to certain goals, they only appeared in the last chapters of the storyline of her or his storyline. And that is something I learned. Like I give my characters traits and stuff, and I let them interact with the world. And my philosophy is not press the characters into paths, but make the environment lead the characters into the paths. You know, for example, if you want a character to not go to a place, don't make them suddenly decide out of nowhere to not go there, but put a brick wall into their way. You know what I mean? Like something like that, that they can't overcome. Or they try to overcome and they fail, and then they learn something even, and they have to go somewhere else. So you know what I mean? So anyway. What was your writing schedule like? Did you have a set routine, or was it more spontaneous? Mostly I wrote between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. in the night, because otherwise I don't have time. So I lost some sleep through to that, but it was cool. So I put on some cool music that brought me into the mood of certain scenes. And I'm also thinking of putting that playlist into the book somehow, either that you can listen to it on Spotify and go to the chapter and listen to it or something. You know, I would think that is cool as a bonus. Perhaps that's something I could do as a bonus thing. But yeah, so anyway, that's my writing routine. And then I just read the last 2 sentences of the past chapter, look at the outline, or I mean, I have that in my head. I don't need to look at it, and then I just go. Did you ever get stuck while writing, and if so, how did you overcome it? No, did not get stuck with writing. I did plan out the book, like the general 3 storylines. I planned out where the intersections were. And in this book, the intersections, save for the first one, you won't probably even recognize that they are there. There are they even? There are not that many even. And so I had these 3 stories that did spring from the same idea, and they will all be very, very important to each other, these storylines. But in this book, they are like pretty apart in most cases. In the beginning, they are more together than they are in the end. And I had them planned out, and I just wrote that down. Then, like I filled out the details. Like my storyline would be like this: X wakes up in the dream, then goes fishing, then sees a whale, fights the whale, and goes to explore more of the dream. Like that's not anything in the book, but that's how I would write it down, and then I would fill it with details, and perhaps the whale becomes a nightmare, that faces him a bit like Moby Dick is the nightmare of Captain Ahab, obviously, but so to speak, metaphorically. And I would probably write in more characters that would support the person, that would make them question their ideas and stuff. So, that's how I write. So I did write the outline, and I just wrote the chapters down, and I also wrote them sequentially. So I normally always do that. I think I write out the whole storyline, and then I do it in sequence. I write the book. I just like that more, because I do feel otherwise you get you can't focus on the journeys that much, because if you have just impressions that you write down and then you have to link them, I do always find that's hard, because sometimes the character are not who you want them to be in those. Like, you write a scene where a character is really awesome and does X, but then you have hard time making him become that character. You know what I mean? It's very hard. So I try not to do it. I do think I wrote 3 chapters that are not in sequence, because I wanted to get to know several characters. So I wrote them first, and I heavily edited them, and that was probably that was probably one of the hardest things to do, because they were so far off from what I wanted them to be that basically I had to rewrite half of the chapters, and that's why I don't do it. I always want the characters to develop organically, and then I grow with them, so to speak, because they grow in my head, and then I can naturally, I try to do it to naturally develop them further. I never liked, other than for writing exercise or getting to know characters in the key moments, sometimes I don't like writing things out of order in a book. So it's just a personal preference. So for some people it really works, though. Like, I know that. So yeah. How do you balance exposition and storytelling when introducing readers to a new fantasy world? That was never a problem to me. I think if you read it, you can tell me if I do have a problem there. But for me, it's important to explore a world with the characters. And I do have the fortunate thing that my characters wake up without their minds intact. So they didn't remember the previous lives. So they are blank slates, at least the main characters that I follow in this book. Yeah, I mean, everyone arrives in the dream at some point, and some things they learn, but we follow characters that awake in that arrive in the dream in the beginning. That's what the characters we follow. So I had the thing that everyone explored the dream with us. So the whole fantasy world is explored through the characters, through their questions. And one of the fun things is, and I don't know if it will be fun for you, but one of the characters is a very calculated thinking person, quite empathetic as well, but also very, very calculated and very logical. So that person would really go at it, be like, why is this happening? Why does this work? How does this work? And stuff, and question everything. And I hope it won't get on your nerves. I did try to always let that character question something I would want to know in this world as well. So I do hope it's not grating, but that is one of the tactics. And through experiences, through what the characters experience. That's my answer, yeah. Do you edit as you go, or do you write the entire draft before making changes? I only edit when I really feel something's not working. There was one scene that developed into a direction I didn't want it to go yet, because it would have revealed a lot too much about something, really too much about something, and it would have taken away off the end of one character's journey. So I really completely rewrote that scene and edited the hell out of it. I also edited the scenes I wrote beforehand, because when I got to them in my sequential writing, so to speak, they didn't fit, so I edited them there. But now I'm only editing for the first time the details. I just write I even type so fast that sometimes I make a lot of typing errors and stuff. I just let them in. I just try type, get the ideas out. And if I'm in a scene that's really flowing onto the document, I write so many stupid things in that I make I repeat words, and my the words people speak might be really bad, or and I have to edit that now, and it's really fun to do that. But I want the idea on the paper, and if there's someone that's like someone is scared and he is scared and he is scared and he is scared, I still try to find different adjectives for that or something. Obviously, I already do that in the writing process to my best ability, but when I read it currently and edit it, I see repetitions and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, obviously I did that. I needed to get the story out. It's because for me it's easier to edit than to create the details, if that makes sense. Like if I write down the story, I have the idea, it has to go to the paper, onto the page, and then I edit, and then I go into the really finicky details. And I mean, in the end, I need an editor anyway, but I want to give the alpha readers, which I will hopefully find soon. Like I will give it to my wife and a friend and stuff, people who give me their first impressions, if I should even give people this book to read or if it's shit. But they will get this more rough version that only I edited. But yeah. What advice would you give someone struggling to finish their first book? That is, I don't know how to answer that because I don't have the specifics. Do you struggle to finish your book because you don't know how it ends? Conclude the character arcs. Think about what the characters want, and if they get it, what will they pay for that? And how will or how will that change them? If you struggle because you don't have the energy, just write something. Just start writing. Write fluff. Write a fluff paragraph. Mark it if you want, if you would forget it otherwise. Just make something up just to get writing, and then start writing more and more and more. Or something I've never tried that. What might work for you is read the last 4 sentences and write them down again from your mind. And don't copy them, don't put them on screen and copy them, but read them, write them down again, and start from there again to have the flow go. That might work as well. I've never tried that because I don't have that big of a barrier to get big into writing, but yeah. And also, the feeling of finishing your first book will be awesome. I remember when I finished my first book. I was 14. It was summer. I went outside, got some lemonade. I went to the porch of my parents. I was living there still, obviously, because I was 14. So I went onto one of these things where you lie down on, and I just was like, yes, I fucking finished a book. Yes! So I don't like that book nowadays. I would have written it differently. It was a YA book. Also gobbled together from it did have more YA elements, and I thought it was pretty cool, pretty fun, nothing big, but it was fun to write, and it was just an experience to write for the first time and just to finish it. If you are stuck, try to introduce elements into your environment that will unstuck you. Don't make the characters change because you want them to get unstuck. And if the elements are introduced, don't make them Deus Ex Machina as well, obviously. So perhaps prepare them or use something natural from the environment. Don't just magic something in, just I don't know, if you're in the forest stuck, you can use poison ivy to climb a tree or whatever. You know what I mean. You can't just flare up suddenly. So that's what I would... And also, don't exhaust yourself. If you feel you need to take a break, look at your schedule, estimate what break you would like, put that break into your schedule, and then don't write until then. If you got the urge to write again, obviously you write again, but if you don't, it's okay. And at that point, you start with the method I said, perhaps take the last 4 sentences, start writing again. I do think that's my advice. And also, don't make your first book too long. My first book was 254 pages, with probably less. I think in German it was 200. Perhaps it was 180 pages in English. And I was so proud, and I think that was okay, obviously. So, I mean, and yeah. And also don't be too harsh on your writing, especially if you've not finished the book yet. So those are my advices. Is there a specific part of writing process that you enjoy the most? Brainstorming, drafting, editing. Brainstorming and editing. I love taking a walk, thinking about the world and things popping into my mind, scenes popping into my mind, and looking forward to writing them or thinking back to them and being like, yeah, that was so cool. That was a good idea for a scene. So brainstorming is really cool because sometimes I'm somewhere and suddenly an idea comes. I love that. And editing, I love editing. I just love editing. I love editing other people's work more than mine because I do like to help other people improve their works, and to work with them to make everything better. And my colleagues, like, I do that as well on work, like because I work at the university, obviously. I mean, I don't know if, I mean, not obviously, but I mean, I work there, and like students come to ask for advice and papers and stuff, and I love that. I love working with them. Or their master's thesis, when I, like, before I grade them, I give them opportunity to send that to me, and I will give them tips, and I love editing so much. So yeah, those are the things. I don't like drafting that much in some parts. Drafting in even cool scenes, when I've got a cool scene in my head and it doesn't flow to the pages I want to, it's a bit frustrating sometimes. And then in editing, I can iron it out when I just write it down. So yeah. What's one lesson you learned while writing this book that you'll carry into future projects? A lesson I learned with writing this book. I learned that my horror writing techniques my horror writing technique, I do think, or my writing style does translate to fantasy. And I learned that I should really listen to the characters, and I really should try to understand them. And I should really try to make everyone at least understandable, even if they're not likable. I learned that even more in this book, because many characters are really grey in this one, I think. But yeah, especially antagonistic characters, and also some protagonistic characters, they will have twists that you're like, oh, ooh, I think. Yeah. Did you always plan for this book to be part of a series, or did the story expand naturally? I always did. As I said, this was never supposed to be a book, though. The second one was supposed to be the first book, but yeah, I know the series is ending. And I know the main beats of every main character's journey towards that ending. But it might change a bit, so... Without spoilers, what can readers expect in future books? Will the scope of the world or story expand? Oh, yes. Yes, it will grow bigger, it will develop, progress. We will find more realms as well in the later story. Like, as I said, currently we're in 2. And in the future there will be more. And they will be more foreign as well, because of how the realms are constructed, how they develop within the story universe. Like there will be realms that are a lot more alien as well than the ones we're in currently, because the ones we're currently in I wanted to make very approachable as well. Like they are very one is more Stone Age, one is more medieval, I would say, something like that. But they're like settings in, like they're not really that, but they're like on that level of technology, and so they are something like, and there are perhaps horses or horse-like creatures, and they are very, very easy to approach. But in other realms, it will be different. I have planned out one realm already that will be really nasty stuff. But, we will see that in the future. How do you approach writing a multi-book arc? Do you plan everything in advance or discover things along the way? As I said, main beats are there. I don't know if there will be that more beats will appear in between. I don't know that. Perhaps they will. But the main things are clear, and the main characters are clear. But other characters might join the cast, and other characters might become even main characters. So yeah, I have three characters that will become main characters in the future that are in this book, but that you won't think will be main characters in one of the next books. And yeah, I will just leave it at that. Like they will become main characters in one of the books, perhaps for a book or two, or perhaps till the end. I will not spoil that, but yeah. What are some themes or character arcs you are excited to explore in later books? Venturing out in the unknown is one of the themes I'm very curious about. Also, what it means to be a good leader will probably be something I will explore as well. And when do ends justify the means, perhaps? That's also something I will explore. Does each book have its own contained story, or are they more interconnected as one grand narrative? Each book will have stories on their own. Like there will be stories in the books. I would even say in the books there are two stories perhaps for one character sometimes. Like it's not easily definable, but the ending is not that clear cut, like really open. Like the ending of this book is really open-ended. And very deliberate, because you know where all the characters are, if they make it through the book at least. So like you will know where all the characters are and what that will do in the future, and you have a very good grasp on what like you know how the next book's gonna start with all the characters, at least that are still there. So I do think that is very important. And yeah, so there will be, every book will have its own story, so to speak, its own little quest line, even though it's a lot different, I would say, than a normal quest line. And the last book will pull everything together, obviously. Like that will also be a self-contained story, but it will only be one self-contained story, probably. I'm not sure though. If things are, if perhaps it's going to be two parallel stories again in the last one. I'm not sure yet that much, or perhaps I am. But yeah, okay. How do you ensure consistency in world building and storytelling across multiple books? Storytelling, because I don't always do consistent storytelling in this book even. There are one or two chapters that are really different writing styles. I fear for some it might be too experimental, but the themes of those chapters are just best presented in these ways. There are later chapters, don't worry. Like you will already hopefully love the book till then, and if you read that one or two chapters, you're like, okay, that wasn't my cup of tea. But like there will be the writing way it will be different for every character, I hope, at least in some parts. And because of some certain perspective stuff, it will also be a different perspective a bit. Yeah, so I will not do consistent writing in that sense. Like if the story needs a certain way of being written, I will write it that way, because I will just do the excuse of, it's a dream, so it's again fragmented stuff, and sometimes the dream jumps a bit, but I do think it fits as well. Like it's not going to be jarring. Like I hope that doesn't sound really like you don't know what you're doing, but it's like sometimes a certain writing style feels a bit more appropriate for characters, and I will try, or for the emotions of the scene, like a horror chapter will be different than a cozy chapter, obviously. So, but there is going to be consistency within these idea bubbles, so to speak, if that makes sense. And world building of the whole world, I wrote down the primary rules of the dream and lucidity in a document, and I know it and I look at it. So I try to be consistent with that through that. I have some more ideas how things will be developed in later books as well already. So yeah. Do you have a planned ending for the series, or is it still evolving as you write? I do have the last scene already halfway written, and I do have several scenes of the last book already written. The theme of the last book I also know. I don't know the details yet because I might not have all characters yet that have developed and need to fit into there. But it's a bit more complex in the end. But I do know the last chapters, and I do know the beginning of the last book and the end of the last book already. I just like the middle is also, I know what's going to happen, but as I did not know with this one, I don't know the details exactly. And it's probably going to be an even bigger book, the last one, because like I can't tell you anything. Last book's probably gonna. Nah, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say what it will start with. But yeah. What's one question from book one that won't be answered until much later in the series? Who flattened the plane, and why was it flattened? There's gonna be a scene where a character and his group they venture in they're traveling in the nightmare-infested lands, and there is an event that happens they want to look at, and it's just in a way like there's like this plane like in front of them. It's just flat, completely flat, nothing there. Like it's just completely level. Like it's as if they're like some immensely powerful bulldozer just waltzed over all mountains and everything, and it's just giant, just circular flat thing, and they discover it, and what that was and why it is there, that will very, very, very lately only be revealed, probably. I hope that didn't spoil anything for a later book. I don't think it will. It's a menial thing in a later book. It's not that important, but it's something that will not be explained for a long time. So yeah, anyway. So that was the Q&A. Hope you liked it. It's a long one. I don't even know if anyone's still here. That's some teasers for the book. If you have more questions about the book or the writing style, post them in the comments, obviously. And as always, have a great day. And I will see you around, hopefully. Bye.